Today's episode of the Mountain Matchups podcast is brought to you by JW Sheds and Carports. Whether you're looking for a new shed to store your tools or a sturdy carport to keep your vehicle protected, JW's has you covered. Located at 10 Pallet Road in Candler, North Carolina, JW Sheds and Carports offers high-quality, durable structures to meet all your outdoor storage needs. Give them a call today at 828-777-8401 to learn more, or stop by and check out their selection in person. That's 828-777-8401 for JW Sheds and Carports, your trusted source for sheds and carports in Candler.
You're listening to the Mountain Matchups podcast, your home for Western North Carolina high school sports.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Mountain Matchups podcast. Boys, how are we doing tonight?
Good. How you doing, my man?
Doing good. Can't complain.
Oh, I am fantastic at all. As always, we got some great football games to talk about that we watched last week. We're going to talk a little bit of basketball. We'll get our preview picks for the playoffs, what we have left of them anyways, in Western North Carolina. Maybe a few other surprises. And speaking of surprises, Corey, our Tar Heels trying to cook up something special. Is Bill Belichick going to be the new coach for the North Carolina Tar Heels? What is going on?
In my opinion, he needs to be. As much as he's dealt with players and money and stuff like that, and all he's talked about coming in and changing up, I feel like it'd be cool to experiment with. What do we got to lose? You know, we freaking suck right now. So
You got a lot to lose. Didn't he bring in like a 400-page quote-unquote Bible to a meeting talking about what he would do? And he wants Stephen Belichick to be the future coach after him. Like,
Whatever.
What is this? Is this like LeBron and Bronny Jr. all over again, except in coaching terms? And you're actually happy that UNC might possibly hire him? I think it would. I hope UNC hires him. That would make my day, week, and month. Please, God, make this happen. As a Duke fan,
I was not happy when the initial reports came out that we were talking, we as in UNC, we're talking with Bill Belichick. I was like, what are we doing? The guy sucked down the stretch as a coach in the NFL. No NFL team wanted him. I think there was 7 openings last offseason, and not a single one. I think the Falcons may have interviewed him, but they still didn't go for him. He didn't even get interviewed anywhere else. So I'm thinking, what are we doing? You know, you just fired Mac, who's 70-something years old. You're going to bring in another 70-something-year-old guy. But the more I listen to him talk and how he wants to turn this program into something that's very progressive and kind of unheard of outside of maybe Colorado with Coach Prime, and we've already seen how successful that model's been just in the past couple seasons. He's wanting to do something similar like that, but even more intense and straight up be a pipeline for kids to transfer into. You come get your 1-2 years learning under one of the greatest coaches of all time, and then you're shipped off to the NFL. That could work. In theory, that could work.
who wouldn't want to come play in that scenario? Warren, what are you cheesing at?
I mean, isn't that like coach talk? Isn't that's what everybody says? You're going to walk into a parent's living room, whatever. What else are you going to tell the parents? You're going to talk about this isn't Dabo. Dabo's going to talk about Jesus and education. I mean, they're in the playoffs now, but of course he's going to walk into parents' living rooms and talk about we're going to get your kid to the NFL. What else is he going to say? We're going to get your kid a degree in freaking architecture?
No, here's the
thing. Come on.
Here's the thing. He's not going into these people's houses. So a part of that 400-page Bible you were just referencing, he wants to have 2 separate staffs. You got a recruiting staff and you got a coaching staff. He wants to lead the coaching staff. The recruiting staff will be ran by an unnamed general manager who he's got someone in mind. That's all I've heard from the insiders, saying that this person, whoever he has, that he wants to take that position, is going to require a buyout. So that's more money UNC would have to spend to get this guy. But the idea that Bill Belichick is going to go into somebody's home and eat mom's casserole and sit there and be like, hey, we want your boy to come play here, that's not happening.
But if you've got dreams of your kid going to the NFL, whether you think they're good enough or not, why would you not want your kid to get play for an 8-time Super Bowl champ?
I want him to be the coach because he'll be their bare minimum, or at most, 2 years, and then Steven can take over, do his little snorting thing on the sideline. And as a Duke fan, I'll take that all day.
Like Caleb said, maybe we need a psycho like Stephen Belichick.
That's right. Maybe that's exactly what this program needs.
I mean, Warren, think about it, dude. We've went with we need to try something new. I really don't care at this point. Just do something. I'm tired of being bottom of the barrel ACC every year, getting our rear ends whooped by State. I'm sick of it.
I mean, you guys have had talent. I
Yeah,
mean, it's definitely not from a lack of recruiting or lack of talent. I mean, and I don't know. We'll see what Belichick can do as a college coach. I just don't see it.
If it happens, well. So as of this moment, so we're recording this Tuesday night, December 10th. By the time this episode comes out, we may know for sure whether or not he's going to be there. All I know is I hope it works. I've got my doubts too, Warren. I'm trying to see the positives. I hope it works. We'll see what happens.
We're used to being let down anyway, so what does it matter?
Exactly. We'll end up hiring probably Warren as head coach. That's how these things usually go. We get excited over something and then majorly disappointed.
I'd be an amazing coach. Shit.
I could see you, Warren, as a coach, I bet you get pretty worked up, huh? And so I think we're going to start a new segment weekly. We're calling it Warren Gets Worked Up. Warren, what are you worked up about this week, buddy?
Baseball's turned into a big crock of shit, and they need a salary cap. So Juan Soto just signed with the Mets for a 15-year deal worth $765 million. Now, I know the Detroit Tigers recently did this to contend or whatnot, but there's 3 reasons why it's more difficult to contend without a salary cap. 1, the odds are against you. 2, there's absolutely no margin for error with lower payrolls unless you're Brad Pitt and that fat version of Jonah Hill. And 3, success is not sustainable unless you spend money. So say, for instance, this upcoming season, the Pittsburgh Pirates payroll is going to be $75 million. Last season, the Dodgers spent $1.1 billion on 3 players, and Tyler Glasnow, Ohtani, and some Japanese dude named Yoshinobu Yamamoto. That's $1.1 billion, and the Pirates payroll last season was $75. In 2024, the A's spent 4 slices of ham. I don't really. It's unless you're like a Yankees, Mets, Philly, or Dodger fans, baseball is. And I know that if you're a baseball fan listening to this, you're gonna be like, no team has repeated as World Series champions since 2000, and the Texas Rangers just went from worst to first. But it's hard to sustain and win without spending money, and over 3/4 of these teams cannot compete with 5 or 6 of these clubs that spend money out the. It's at these teams like the Pirates and the A's and Mariners. They're farm teams, because once a player spends 6 years in the big leagues, they're up for free agency, and then they're going to be like, peace out. So baseball needs a salary cap, and I know it's never going to happen because the players union, they'll strike easily. They'll be like, the hell with that. But it's hard to. I know you can have that one great year where, you get a couple good prospects and you got a couple good minor leaguers that come up and they ball out, and you got the veterans to mold them and this and that. But how the hell are you going to compete with Mookie Betts and Ohtani and even this Yoshinobu Yamamoto? I don't even know who the hell that is, but he signed a 12-year, $325 million deal. So
you said the A's 4 pieces of ham.
Man, the A's literally played in they had rats and raccoons and possums in their stadium last season.
All right, we got to keep it moving. We got to talk about some high school sports now. That was Warren Gets Worked Up. So stay tuned in future episodes to see what we can get him worked up about next. By the way, go Dodgers.
You're Dodgers #1 fan.
That's right. Don't you forget it. All right, fellas. First game of the week recap. Murphy at Mountain Heritage. Mountain Heritage handled business against Murphy 26-8 last Friday night, sending the Cougars to the semifinals of the 1A playoffs. The Murphy Bulldogs were able to hang around, but Mountain Heritage's dominant ground game, a hallmark of their season, played a key role in securing the victory.
So dominant ground game is an understatement. Cason Jones, Brandon Quinn, and Lane Chandler amassed a whopping 411 yards on the ground Friday night.
Ooh.
Yeah, and Murphy, they played tough on defense all night. Got Mountain Heritage some key 3rd downs and 4th downs, and they either just couldn't find the stops when they needed them, or when they did, they weren't able to move the ball down the field. Murphy running back Cameron Clem, he gave them all that he had in him. He surpassed the 1,500-yard rushing mark for the season on Friday night with a 74-yard performance. But Yeah, Murphy, it seems like any single time I was thinking, hey, they're not going to get a stop right here. And then they do. They turn immediately around and go 3-and-out. Just could not get anything really going on offense. Mountain Heritage kept them in the ball game by having a lot of costly penalties, just dumb stuff, false starts, jumping off sides, things like that. But Mountain Heritage came out pretty slow, unlike what they normally do. So they're going to have to, cut some of that out come this Friday night if they want to win that ball game in advance. But shout out to Murphy, man. I didn't expect them to play as tough as they did. Had it 12-8 until the last couple minutes. The final score does not say what this game really was. They battled. And one thing I want to touch on, I love that these kids, man, before the clock could even run out, Mountain Heritage is in victory formation with, I think, 40-something seconds left. Time's running out. You see both teams out there dapping each other up, hugging each other. You love to see that. Good sportsmanship. It was a good game.
I think it's cool seeing, two mountain teams making it to the final 8, right?
Oh, yeah.
So two teams that have watched their communities get wrecked this fall during their season, and for them to fight so hard to reach that point in the postseason, I mean, that's a powerful thing. I think there's probably a lot of respect on either side.
Yeah, I'm happy that you mentioned that whole ordeal about sportsmanship after that whole debacle with East Rutherford basically walking off the field after their coach told them to last week. So I'm always happy to hear stuff like that.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to see.
And man, Jones, Quinn, and Chandler combined 411 yards on the ground. They've been doing it all year. That rushing game is nasty.
And Caiden Jones, he's the Swiss Army knife of it all. They got him lined up at like tight end, or he'll play some wing in the wing formations. And he had his 71 yards. He totaled was on, I think, just 6 carries. So that's
wow, nice.
Averaging around 10, 11 yards per carry. It's pretty freaking good.
Yeah, that's moving the sticks, baby. I think you mentioned Cameron Clynn. He surpassed the 1,500-yard rushing mark. Good for him. Running back for Murphy. He's been a stud. I've been able to watch a few games this year, and he's been impressive every time, really popping. So, congrats Murphy on a good season, and congrats Mountain Heritage for advancing to the next round, the semifinals of the 1A playoffs. So our other game that we had in Western North Carolina in the playoffs was Forest Hills at Brevard, and Brevard rolled again at home, 57-14 over Forest Hills to advance to the semifinals of the 2A playoffs this Friday night. And Warren, whatever Brevard is doing at halftime needs to be bottled and sold to every team across all levels, because they turned it on again in the third quarter.
Once it's 28-14 at the half. Last week we talked about Forest Hills' passing attack against Brevard's rushing attack. At the beginning of the game, Forest Hills, they were passing the ball all over the place. They looked fantastic. But I think Brevard just ground and pound, solid defense, eventually just wore them down. Braylon Thompson looked fantastic, dominated early and often like always. But, playing high school football, you can have a great passing attack, but once you get that, start rushing that passer a little bit, start running the ball great, playing solid defense, that passing attack will go down. And for sure did in the second half. Brevard absolutely steamrolled them. I think I stopped watching as 36-14, something like that. It was truly a beatdown in the second half. But Forest Hill, they had their chance. Last play of the first half, 1.4 seconds left. Brevard got a massive stop at the goal line. It could have been 28-21 going into the half, but it wasn't. And Forest Hills didn't score the rest of the game, and Brevard did a lot.
Yeah, and how about Judson Weaver getting another goal line TD? Corey, you gave him props last week, talking about how nasty that set is, throwing that big dude on the goal line. But hey, it worked again to put him up 21-14 in the second quarter.
It reminds me a lot of like what Clemson used to do with who was that? Christian Wilkins and those guys on the goal line.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
I'm
who it was.
not gonna fact check you, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's just it's a smart thing to do, really. I mean, you got the dudes to move some people, do it.
Yeah. And another notable player for Brevard, Eli Griffin. It seems like he was all over the place. They scored on a reverse, I believe, to him. Had another couple big passes to him. One was a deep touchdown. So shout out to Eli Griffin. He's still torching defenses from all over the place. So, yes, congrats to Brevard as they keep rolling 57-14. They got a tough matchup coming up against Monroe that we'll talk about here in a bit. But now it's time for the Mountain Matchups Certified Dogs of the Week.
I'll start us off with Peyton Harvey for Reynolds. She scored her 1,000th career point in a 72-60 win Tuesday against Freedom. She had 30 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, and 7 steals. That is a great game, and she is my certified dog of the week.
And I'm going to have to go with my man Lane Chandler, running back at Mountain Heritage. Goes for 186 yards on only 17 touches and 2 TDs against the Murphy Bulldogs Friday night. Lane Chandler, son, you're a certified dog.
And my pick is Madden Collins for Christ School. He averaged 21 points per game and 2 wins last week over Wilson and Cardinal Newman to put the Greenies at 8-0 on the season and the 16th ranked team in the nation according to Max Preps. Madden Collins, certified dog.
Wow. 16th ranked team in the nation. Pretty freaking good, ain't it?
Yeah,
it's not bad.
That's the Max Preps top 25. I don't know what that's worth, but hey, it's something.
It's worth all the marbles.
They were 17th last week. They moved up to 16th this week, so props to the Greenies. Let's bounce back to football real quick, boys. We got to preview the 2 last teams remaining in Western North Carolina. We got Brevard and Mountain Heritage. The first game, number 9 seed Brevard at number 3 seed Monroe. So Brevard comes in at 11-2. Monroe has not lost a game all year at 13-0. Monroe averaging 51 points a game to Brevard 40. So Monroe can fill it up too. Interesting fact, they both played and beat Anson and Forest Hills. Both those wins for Brevard came at home in the playoffs. Monroe had a closer game with Forest Hills than Brevard did. It was 34-9, but it was at Forest Hills in early October. So that's the beginning of the season. You can't put too much stock in that. You look at the later games in Monroe's schedule, and they've really been on a roll. It's going to be a tough matchup for Brevard.
Brevard has to keep this game within reach in the first half. I know they're a second half team and all that, but Monroe comes out firing. They don't screw around. If Brevard comes out flat, this game could easily be 21-0 going in the second quarter. Brevard has to come in ready to play. None of this third quarter stuff, like we're a second half team, we're going to be all right. Against Monroe, you will not be okay. You will be down and out in a hurry. And I think Brevard has a puncher's chance if they can do that.
Yeah, I'm really banking on Brevard this game, coming out to a hot start and then continuing the second half hot starts. I just think that Coleman's Blue Devils got it in them for another upset. I'm pulling for them. I just think that they can control the clock with Skinner and Thompson back there. I think Brevard's rushing attack is going to give fits for Monroe. So we'll see, but I'm going to roll with Brevard.
Yeah, to Warren's point, Brevard cannot come out flat to start. Monroe's averaging 30 points per game in the first half. So they're jumping on teams quick. Brevard better come to play. And one person I want to point out for Monroe's team, as I've been reviewing their film, Caiden Chambers is the quarterback. He's only averaging 127 yards passing per game, but around 22 yards per completion. I think against Shelby, he was 4 of 12 and was averaging 33 yards per completion. So this guy's boom or bust. The Brevard safeties need to be locked in come Friday night, because if they start having to creep up, if their front seven isn't getting enough pressure and not, stopping those intermediate plays, and the safeties start creeping up, that's when Chambers is going to hit them over the top for big plays, and they cannot let that happen.
You know what that tells me, and I could be totally wrong. If he's hitting completions like that for big gains and only, about 12 attempts per game, obviously we've seen the stats on their rushing attack. They must have a lot of trickery maybe up their sleeve. They like to run a lot of play action. They obviously have the athletes to do stuff like that. So like you're saying, Brevard safeties, don't get caught sleeping, son, because it's coming over top of your head.
Chambers doesn't make mistakes either. That's worth highlighting. So he's only thrown 17 touchdowns on the year, 1,600 yards, around 58% completion, but only 2 picks. So this is a team that's got a lot of firepower. They don't make mistakes. And Warren, I think you've been looking into their running backs. They've got some studs back there like Brevard does as well.
Yeah, I want to touch on Eli Griffin right quick. I would like to see Brevard do this against Monroe. So against Forest Hills stacked the box against them, knowing Brevard runs the crap out of the ball. As soon as they did that, Eli Griffin torched them in the second quarter, I believe. for a massive, massive touchdown. I wouldn't mind to see Brevard open it up a little bit, because once you get that make them respect the deep ball a little bit. Then it'll, get your running game going a little bit more, because they got to respect, you throwing the ball more. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Coach Coleman, early in the game, maybe take some deep shots, see what happens with that.
Yeah, and I mean, you got two quarterbacks in Kessinger and Conley that are both very capable of throwing the ball deep too. So I like that.
They've got a stable of running backs too, and Chambers. I mean, he's second on the team in rushing at quarterback. He's got 838 yards on the season, so it's going to be tough. I think shutting him down is cutting the head off the snake, and so we'll see if they can tackle this dual threat quarterback and at least remove one of the threats in his game.
With Coach Coleman being the defensive guy that he is, from us talking to him and him playing some defense at Pisgah, I think he said, right? Anyways, I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a spy assigned to that quarterback all freaking night long. That's what I would do. I mean, I'm not him. I'm not a coach going to the fifth round of the state playoffs, but with a QB as good as this kid seems to be, I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that.
Well, you got to also account for Namir Kendall. I know I changed pace on Caleb a little bit whenever he led me into that question, but Namir Kendall is an absolute beast, averaging nearly 100 yards a game. He's going to have to be accounted for as well. So you start spying on that QB, Kendall's going to be like, all right, I got you. And it's just so many weapons Monroe has right there. It's going to be tough sledding for Brevard, to be honest.
Yeah, but they do have some monsters on the D-line. You got Weaver, you got O'Neal Brown, solid linebacking crew in that attack 3-4 defense. So they're going to have to put pressure on Chambers, and I would almost be willing to let him throw a little bit. He's not that accurate. Just don't let him beat you over the top. Don't let him scramble away for 13 yards a pop. You try to limit that stuff, and I think he'll be okay. Don't let him score 51 points, or Brevard might be in trouble. So who are y'all taking?
I hope the jinx works this week. I got Monroe. I got him 37-21.
I'm going with Brevard. Big time upset. I think it's going to be somewhat of a shootout, maybe. I'm going to say Brevard 42. We'll say Monroe 38.
I think Brevard's run has come to an end in the semifinals. It's been a hell of a run, very impressive. I'm still hoping that I'm wrong, but from what I've seen at Monroe, they're just too explosive. I'm going to take Monroe 48, Brevard 35. And I will be in the stands for that game, so come see me.
I'm still tempted to come see you.
Yeah, come on down, baby. I hope we see a great upset. But yeah, I'm rolling with Monroe. The other game we mentioned it before. It's Mountain Heritage hosting Corvian Community. Corvian coming in at 14-0. Mountain Heritage also, of course, undefeated. These teams very similar on paper as far as points per game, at 44 points for Mountain Heritage, 42 for Corvian. We mentioned Mountain Heritage likes to run the ball a lot. Corvian does too, but they tend to open it up in the passing game slightly more than Mountain Heritage does. It's going to be a good game based on their performances against Mitchell this year, where they both beat the snot out of Mitchell. I'm sorry, Mitchell. I'm sorry, Warren. I know Mitchell's your favorite team of all time. They look very comparable. So what do you guys see out of this game?
I think so. Brandon Quinn is going to have to be careful. Corvian loves to get to the quarterback. They average nearly 5 sacks a game to start off. I know Quinn is an incredible athlete. He's a quote-unquote dual threat quarterback. He throws 50, 60 yards a game. He might get off 4 or 5 passes a game. So I think he might be okay in that aspect. But Corvian loves to get after the quarterback. So Quinn, he better be on his toes for this one.
My whole thing with Mountain Heritage after watching them Friday night is that they look very one-dimensional in what they do. Yes, they have the hosses to run the ball down your throat, and they're going to try to do that. Like Warren just said, they only throw for maybe 50, 60 yards a game. And Brandon Quinn is a stud. So you're going to have to stop him. But my whole thing is, you're facing a team in the 5th round. They're in the 5th round for a reason. They probably got a solid defense, like Warren just touched on, averaging around 5 sacks a game. Like the other night, Mountain Heritage comes out in Twins formation a few different times. What is it every time? It's QB power to Quinn. I think Corvian should have the dudes to be able to stop it. Mount Heritage came out slow. They've got they had a lot of dumb penalties Friday night that they better clean up if they want to win this game.
Corey, I think recency bias is getting in your head a little bit here, just based off that Mountain Heritage Murphy game. Why are you looking at one game with Murphy instead of the entire body of work that Mountain Heritage has put in over the season? How do you know this wasn't just like a fluke game? Or I mean, you're also in the final 8. Murphy wasn't just going to lay down for him, so I think you're overrating their performance against Murphy to say that they're going to fall back. They've been a wagon all year.
It's almost like you're
by double digits.
It's almost like you're treating Murphy like they were dog water. Murphy is a legit opponent.
That's not what you were saying.
That's
not what you were saying a couple episodes ago, buddy.
Oh, you call me buddy. Oh,
Yeah.
Don't get mad at me.
No,
Hey,
I'm not.
listen, I thought Murphy was going to get dog walked by Mountain Heritage. I think I said it was going to be like 35-point game. So I agree with you that Mountain Heritage wasn't as impressive as we anticipated. But at the same time, it's one game. You look at their entire season.
It's
they've
one
been spanking
game.
teams. They beat Irwin, remember?
That was at the beginning of the season too,
What was the score?
But Irwin was also
they won by like 3.
Oh, okay.
Listen, that's besides the point, Caleb. Yes, it was one game, and that game happened to be in the 4th round of the state playoffs at home against an inferior team. It's not a good sign for me.
I'm just going to say right now, Coach Coleman, did he not say, in his opinion, Irwin was probably one of, if not the best team in Western North Carolina, and Mountain Heritage beat them with Irwin fully healthy at the beginning of the season?
Mountain Heritage is legit. Nobody's saying that they're not, fellas. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think you're letting Murphy scare you too much.
This is not the time. Murphy didn't scare me. It's scary that that Murphy did compete with them so close.
That's what I mean.
It should not have been a ball game. And you're about to go face a team in the 5th round who is there for a reason. I would say they probably play some better teams than Mountain Heritage does overall. Yes, Mountain Heritage beat teams like Irwin, but they also play Mitchell, who's garbage. Warren, Avery County. People like that. That's just I just don't think at this time of the season like you're going to see a team that's just far superior than what you're used to seeing in the mountains. Even a team like Murphy. Murphy wasn't as good as they've been in years past this year. And yes, they come out and fought hard, but like I said, it's the whole one-dimensional thing for me. But like I said, I mean, Corvian's still gonna have to stop it, so we'll see.
I'm just going to say right quick, I looked up Brandon Quinn's personal statement on his recruiting page on ncsasports.org. He verbatim says, opponent's game plan is always stop number 12, which is him. I do not see Corvian doing that at all. He's going to run all over their ass.
We'll see.
A couple of guys to highlight for Corvian as Mountain Heritage prepares to host them on Friday night. Quarterback A.J. Jackson Jr. and running back Cam Johnson are really the two main threats for their team. Cam Johnson has 1,300 yards on the ground, 24 touchdowns this season. A.J. Jackson Jr. with 1,360 yards in the air, 17 touchdowns, but he also has 652 yards on the ground and 12 touchdowns. So between those two, they carry the bulk of the offense for Corvian. Mountain Heritage stops them, runs the ball like they always do, kill clock. I think they'll be all right. I'm taking Mountain Heritage.
I will say, I think Adrian Scott, who's averaging over a sack a game, is going to be a massive difference maker. A sack a game is he's going to come after Quinn. And I think if he gets to Quinn, it's going to be a game changer. If he can't or doesn't, I think Mountain Heritage takes this. And I got Mountain Heritage by 3, 31-28.
That's what's it's going to come down to. I think this game's going to be just like every other game these two teams have played this year. It's going to be hard fought in the trenches. I think it's going to be a very low-scoring game just because I think both teams are going to battle so hard. And obviously both teams are going to control the clock and run the football. So, yeah, I'm going Corvian. We're going to score predictions on this one?
Yeah, throw it out there if you got one.
I'm going to go Corvian 21, Mountain Heritage 14. Actually, let me backtrack that. Mountain Heritage.
You better backtrack it.
Mountain Heritage 20. After all the failed PAT attempts I saw Friday night.
Oh, give me Mountain Heritage by 14. Or they'll show up ready to play more so than they did against Murphy. It's semifinals. It's time for a little trip to Chapel Hill next week if you win this game. Mountain Heritage seniors ain't gonna let that moment pass them by. They win by 14.
They probably will. Nobody wants to go to Chapel Hill. They might intentionally lose the damn game.
You shut your mouth. They're gonna go there and they're gonna see Coach Bill Belichick, baby.
Yeah, and Steven snorting.
We've been talking about how we need to get more into basketball season, and I promise you we're going to get there. I was able to watch Polk County at East Henderson last week. I think it was last Wednesday. I wanted to check out Caiden Brewer, which, guys, you know, we've talked about him. He's having a hell of a season. I think he's 11th in the nation in scoring, last I saw. So
impressive.
Pretty impressive. Yeah, I think it was like 33 points a game. So that's 11th in the nation according to Max Preps. Take that for what it's worth. That's Max Preps. I don't know if half the schools in the nation put in their stats. So,
is that Trent Strickland?
I know, right? Yeah. There's a throwback for you.
Yep. East Henderson boys.
Yeah. So, anyways, I tuned into the game. It ended up being a rout, 74-45 for East Henderson. They advanced to 7-0 after another win last week against Chase. So East Henderson is looking good. I haven't seen a team that good in the mountains yet, especially Caiden Brewer. I mean, he gets up and down the court, gets a lot of points on fast breaks. He didn't have a great shooting game from three when I saw him. He was 2 for 9. But he still had 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. So he's really like the focal point of their offense. I think he's scoring something like 60-70% of their offense. So he's carrying it.
He's like James Harden.
We played against him the last couple of years when I was coaching at the high school at Inca, and that dude, I think he had 45 and like maybe 50 on us. He's definitely their ball hog, and he can score for sure. But the main problem, Caleb, that I want to touch on with, like he said, guys, we're wanting to get more into basketball, but it's kind of hard right now because you got to think about all the mountain football teams that we had that actually had some.
Well, they had some success in the postseason, and then even once you lose, you got to take some time off to recover. There's guys that are banged up. I mean, that's a long, grueling season. You can't necessarily get back out there on the hardwood right away. So it'll be interesting to see what these teams look like as they're getting full rosters with some of those football guys back. But anyways, yeah, Caiden Brewer, super impressive. Polk County, they were hanging around halftime, 11 points, but then third quarter got blown wide open. And by the way, that 28 points that Caiden Brewer scored was within 3 quarters because they rested their starters pretty much the entire fourth quarter. So he could have had a lot more than that. He's just, when he's out there so far in the games I've watched of him, he's just the best player far and away.
Can I ask you guys a question right quick? Corey, you coach basketball. If you're a high school player and, you know, you're someone like Caiden Brewer and you want to get recognized by a school, it might be a Mars Hill, it might be an App State, I don't know. You got to be kind of pissed that you're sit after 3 when, you know, you feel like you can put up 40, 45, 50, you know, something that might get you like, you know, really, really out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like here.
Yeah. The main thing, though, to getting seen around here, I feel like there's been quite a few kids over the years that have been able to score high in numbers game after game, maybe not quite as high as him. But, like, take Amore Connolly, for example, from Freedom High School. That kid is a freaking stud. I don't know how much he's averaging right now, but we played against him last couple of years. Kid's a freak athlete, can shoot it. He's got vision, plays good defense. He's like 6'3", and that's from a team in Morganton, so closer to Charlotte, you know, not like just a mountain team. And that kid, I think his only offer is a Western. It's hard to get looks around here, man. I guess that's just from the competition standpoint, or that coaches think the lack thereof, like college coaches, that is. I don't know. But
do you think from a basketball standpoint that from an athletic standpoint, rather, the mountains just from a basketball standpoint just don't have the premier athletes that D1 schools really look for?
Definitely not, outside of obviously your private schools like Christ School, Nashville School, ACA, people like that. But yeah, as far as public school ball, I've seen some good athletes, but I mean, they're good athletes for around here. You know what I mean? Some of them, like Jagger Gardner and Rico Dowdle, those were great football players that were able to go play at the Division I level. And one of them make it to the pros. But from as far as basketball, no, there's just kids from around Hickory and like further down east towards like Raleigh and Durham, and it's just I played AAU ball against kids like that in high school, and no, it's superior athletes out that way when it comes to basketball.
So basically, if you're a superior athlete in basketball and you're really good at basketball and you go to public school, you go like the Rashad McCants way and go to, where do you go, Oak Hill or something? I think.
Where did Rashad go?
Off the top of my head.
Prep school, I forget. So he initially played at Irwin.
He
transferred his senior year, I believe, and I can't recall what prep school he went to, but I don't even think it was in North Carolina.
So I'll use Rakeem Passmore that played at Reynolds. I think 3 years ago as a freshman. Kid was a freaking, and I think he had an offer, maybe like NC State or something like that. I don't know, but I don't think he had a ton of looks. And the kid was very, very good. Well, he left Reynolds and went to some prep school down near Charlotte, and now he's at Kansas. The schools that you can get, like especially those prep schools that you go to, or any private school, they're dedicated to getting you to the next level. And you can get more, scholarships and stuff like that. So,
and a lot of those coaches at those schools already have connections with the coaches at the next level here and there. They've built those reputations, so it's easier to get noticed playing under a coach that has that kind of pipeline.
Yeah, and think about Christ School. They do a camp every year hosted by the Plumlee brothers. I hate them, Warren. Sorry to tell you,
nerds.
But
they made a lot of money. Hey, Marshall's like an Army Ranger. Are you going to talk crap about the Army? That's what I thought. Shut up, Corey.
We respect our troops. No, but I think that's probably true for public schools all across the nation. You're going to get seen at these prep schools. You're going to get seen in AAU tournaments, all the different kind of similar youth ball they got going on, clubs out there. That's where you're going to get seen. Public ball or public school ball, it doesn't seem like, a lot of people make a name for themselves in that.
It blows my mind that college coaches want to go watch the AAU stuff. I know that it's like stacked talent versus stacked talent in those big shot tournaments and stuff like that, but the way AAU basketball is played, it's not anything close to college ball. It's not even close to high school ball.
Well,
it's just
it's kind of getting that way.
Yeah, it's getting that way, but it's glorified pickup nonetheless. So I really never understood why college coaches. I mean, I guess back in the day it wasn't that bad, but nowadays it's like one-on-one ball everywhere. But
that's where the money is, Corey.
It's very true.
Corey, you hit the nail on the head. I was literally about to bring that up. We can do this another episode. AAU basketball has damn near ruined basketball as a whole. It's straight up isolation. Give me the ball. Let me go in ISO mode. Do this and that. There's no more team-oriented stuff anymore.
Well, and
Mr. Cooper Flag, he's amazing. Totally team-oriented, and he's amazing.
And we wonder why there's freaking kids tearing ACLs left and right these days. Well, they're playing 9 games in 2 days and eating McDonald's in between.
After playing a full school season.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Also, NBA injuries. I was going to touch on this before I got on the $765 million bullshit thing. NBA injuries are up 40% this year. They're up 80% over the past 15 years. You want to know why? These kids play ball 12 months a year. It's high school season, and it's AAU. And then you're training this, and you're training that. They're way more athletic as well. These kids, 17, 18 years old, have 41, 42-inch verticals. It's AAU ball. You got to take a break. 3 months, 3 months. I don't care.
All right. So I think that wraps up our little basketball chat. Like we said, we're going to be getting more into basketball as conference play starts to heat up. I think we'll see that kind of picture rounding out and be able to talk about who the best teams are, who the best players are, and we'll bring you coverage and hopefully some interviews down the road with some players and coaches too as we get deeper into basketball season. But for now, that concludes another episode of the Mountain Matchups Podcast. Boys, thank you as always for joining me.
Sir, thanks for having us.
Thank you, my man. Your hair looks great, by the way.
Thank you. I didn't wear a hat this time around. And thank you to everyone who joined us. And we'll catch you next week. Love you guys.
Love you.
Love you.